Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome back to Cardiff City World. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the breakdown. And it's not very often that I get to say this, but I think Cardiff City might have saved my weekend because everything else this could have gone wrong has gone wrong, and that was after a very long and painful week. So usually it's Cardiff City which spoil the weekends historically, but yet again this weekend, Cardiff City have saved my weekend, and I'm very happy to say it. So obviously we're going to dig into the game and stuff like that. We're going to dig into the performances and whatnot, but also I want to talk about a manager. He's come in, started his reign, I think probably as well as anyone thought he was going to, if not better. And I want to discuss whether the way he wants to play, the way he wants to set up, is it sustainable with the squad we have for the whole season? I think it is. And I'll explain why in a bit. But I'm interested in what everyone is thinking. If you didn't watch it earlier, check out my videos. Five things we learned from Wigan 0, Cardiff City 2. That dropped at lunchtime. And it had a good reaction, actually. Because in that video, I asked which 3 players are your first names on the team sheet straight away, without fail, if everyone's fit. Like, what's the first 3 names that are in your team every time? And I think I said Trott, Lawler, and Ruben would be my 3, like that sort of spine. And then everyone else I can kind of go on with form and fitness and the rest of it. But I am really interested. There were some really interesting comments on there from different people. So I kind of, what I might do actually is I might, like, because there's been so many already, as people drop them on that video, I might culminate them all into one and make a bit of a video out of it, I think. But got a video coming out on Dylan Lawler probably tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. Got a few other videos, got one on Ninian Park and stuff like that. So like, there's lots of stuff coming. Obviously I was off the majority of last week ill, so there was no lunchtime videos, but they'll be back now. They were back today. They'll be back going forward. So please do check them out. They're always interesting conversation starters, but good to see some of the usual names. Good to see some new names in there as well. Like, what have you guys made of Brian Barry Murphy? So I think from a football, like the way the football is, I think it's much more enjoyable to watch. Much more enjoyable to watch than it's been for a long time. Don't think that's rocket science. I don't think I'm special by saying that. But I think the one thing which I've noticed and I quite like is he's quite brave with his selections sometimes. You know, in many ways yesterday, the easy thing to do was to bring Lawler back in. I think that's what I would have done. Fish and Bagan have probably been our two most consistent performers. Gives Fish a rest on the back of Chambers playing really well Tuesday. Osho, I thought, did all right on his debut. I know some people thought he didn't do very well. I thought he did all right, penalty aside. I thought he was pretty good. And I thought yesterday he showed again his pace and his ability on the ball is real good. And second half, he played a couple of diagonals, which were very Fish-like. So that's encouraging. I think Joel Colwell makes a massive difference. But again, I kind of understand why he goes for Turnbull sometimes, because he wants that bit of control in possession, and we're going to have such a high percentage of possession, whether we're home or away, it seems. I think we had something like 71% possession yesterday, which is absolutely mental, isn't it, considering you're the away team. And look, I thought we should have put the game to bed yesterday in the first half hour, and I was worried that we might end up paying for that with like just a set piece or something happening towards the end, but it didn't. And you know, we deservedly got that second goal as well. I was happy Yusuf Salich got to take the penalty as well, because it's a goal for him, builds his confidence. Thought he looked sharp when he came on. And there's competition everywhere, like everywhere in this team. There's competition. You know, Trott has been outstanding, kept us in games. Yesterday, I had one real big save to make, and he makes it. And then obviously he's tidy with everything else, his distribution, etc. but Turner, everyone said Turner was a bit unlucky to lose his place to Trot. So you've got competition. The only place we haven't got competition, I think it's fair to say, is left back. And I worry because I just cannot, for the life of me, surely Joel Bagan's not going to play like 60 odd games this season and every minute of every game, like surely. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like that is one place I'm a bit concerned with. I wouldn't be against giving Giles a run out here and there, like Tuesday now. Could you give him an hour? I don't know. Perry NG as well. Like I was been so happy, and I talked about this a little bit in the video earlier, but I want to address it a bit more. Right, Perry NG is taking a lot of criticism, and look on his performances over the last 18 months. I think they're fair criticisms. But when he came back and he was not great in that first game back, like people seem to think that when you come back from a long-term injury, you can just hit the ground running. When you get in the first team, you're ready. And like, it just doesn't work like that. Match fitness, match sharpness, match fitness are so different to anything else. Like playing football is just a different type of fitness. You could be like unbelievable long distance runner. You could be the fittest person in the world, but playing football in a match, in a competitive match, is so different. And what I like about Perry NG is he's just kept quiet, got his head down, clearly enjoying playing for this manager and training with this manager. All right, his first game back wasn't great. Next game's better. Next game's really good on Tuesday. And then to Saturday, yesterday, was just exceptional. Keir Ashford started the season really well, and you're thinking he's going to suit the way that Brian Barry Murphy wants to play. This is going to suit him down to the ground. Starts the season well, assists, goals, and then he has a couple of games where he's not quite at that standard that he set. He set with his own performances, and you've got all sorts of criticisms and stuff online, which is bizarre to me. And what I like is the way that both of them shut down some quite unwarranted criticism without making a big show of it, without making a big thing of it. Just head down and just remind people how good you are. Now, I thought Keir Ashford was really good on Tuesday anyway, but yesterday I thought he was absolutely exceptional, going both ways. Excellent. And I understand, I think someone said earlier, they prefer a winger who can beat their man. But modern football, the way it is now, is quite often you have a winger who likes to play and is a bit more technical, who can cut in and link up play and do all the things that Keir Ashford's very good at. By the way, Keir Ashford, not a winger. He's been a number 10 all his career. And then you've got Isaac Davis. I think I said on Tuesday, the balance was sensational on Tuesday in the midfield, the wingers, everything just felt lovely and balanced. And again, yesterday, I thought Isaac Davis was excellent. He gives you that threat in behind. He's the one that's direct. And then on the other side, you've got Keir Ashford, who's very technical, links up the play, but really good at pinching the ball back. I like it. And then you've got Callum Chambers. Now, with Callum again, right? Callum Chambers, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, he would be my fourth choice for the centre-back. But he has shown on Tuesday, and he showed again yesterday, that he's a very, very good choice for centre-back. We have got 4 centre-backs that, in my opinion, walk into any other team in the league, starting 11. You think about that. And this manager, for all the pretty football, and, we'd probably need to have a bit more cutting edge at times, particularly away from home, of course. All these, it's not perfect, but all the pretty football, all the good football, all the good performances, doing well, looking good for the rest of the season. He's also got to keep all of these players happy in different ways. Look, Dylan Lawler is 19. He's young. He's coming into the first team for the first time. But I don't think you can sideline him to the bench for a lot of games. One, because I think he's our best defender. He's certainly our best defender on the ball. He also plays a massive role in how we build up and how we play. And I think you, as a football club, providing that he's doing the right things in training and the rest of it, you run a massive risk if you keep putting him on the bench, because he's got a big old queue of Premier League and European clubs who are happy to take him. You've got Callum Chambers, highest paid player at the club, captain, wants to play. Osho, the big money signing, big money centre-back signing. You know, he's come from France, played in Luton, played in the Premier League. He wants to be playing. Good enough to play. And then you've got Will Fish, the most reliable centre-back we've had all season. Barely put a foot wrong. Also, like Dylan Lawler, been very vital to the way we play with his switches of play and his long passing. So Brian Barry Murphy's got to keep those 4 centre-backs happy. That's before you get to Perry NG and Capaccio. Before you get to Joel Colwell and David Turnbull. Before you get to Ruben Colwell and Amari Kellyman, Kean Ashford, Chris Willock, all these different players. So this manager has got to juggle it all. He's got to keep the players happy. And at the moment, now I will say it's easy to keep everyone happy when the team's winning. So, of course, when we lose to Bradford, I'm thinking, right, if we have a sticky spell now, you know, are the wheels going to come off historically, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's hard not to be pessimistic. The reaction to that loss was just sensational. The performance, and I think it went under the radar, as I said earlier, or the other day. Like the next day, on Wednesday morning on TalkSport, you've got the presenters going, oh, no upsets last night in the Carabao Cup. And you're thinking, well, League One Cardiff City went away to Premier League Burnley, completely dominated them, and should have probably beaten them to 0 or more comfortably than what they did. How is that not an upset? But maybe it's not an upset because of how Cardiff City are playing and how we've been playing under this manager. And it's exciting. Like Callum Chambers, you know, he might not be everyone's cup of tea, but talk about being an example. Got dropped out of the side, and at the time, probably right to drop out of the starting 11. Dylan Lawler and Will Fish, very good as a pairing as well. Did he kick his toys out of pram? Did he moan at the manager? Did he like kick off in training? No. Got his head down, trained harder, played harder. Still had a couple of ropey moments when he was coming on. Played at right back at one point because the manager asked him to, even though he doesn't want to play there, if former managers are believed, which is fine. No reason to think that's not correct. And then you've got one example then to come in against Burnley. And I saw it on social media. I saw it in my messages. A few eye rolls. Oh, Callum Chambers is playing. That could be a problem. Even yesterday, same thing. Oh, that could be an issue. And he showed what he's capable of. And if he can play like that as centre-back, no problem. Now, I would say they're probably his best 2 games this week at centre-back for us. He did all right at centre midfield, so I don't include that. But at centre-back, I think they were his best 2 games. And more power to him, because there's pressure on him. He's experienced, and we haven't got that many experienced senior players. He's the club captain. Everyone knows he got dropped for probably his performance. So to come in and perform at that level is, I think, a really good sign, because we have lacked leaders for a long time. And there is different ways to lead. You can lead vocally, of course, but also you can lead by example. And leading by example is not always just about doing your job and getting on with it. Leading by example is how you deal with adversity, how you deal with it when the manager calls you out because you haven't done something or whatever. And I'm all about it. I think the reactions of Callum Chambers, the reactions of Kean Ashford for Perry NG in this last week have been excellent. And they bode well for the way that this squad is not only playing for the manager's clearly got them playing. They clearly have a plan. They understand what he's trying to do, the patterns of play. It's all there. There's a few little tweaks here and there, you know, to make you the finished article. But you wouldn't expect us to be the finished article. We're still in September. But the encouraging sign for me in terms of sustainability is that every single player in that side looks happy. Now, I've seen people in the comments, in the messages, oh, Alex Robertson, there's got to be more to it. There's got to be more to it. The guy has got a long-term hamstring issue. He is not just going to return to full training and be like, bang. And maybe in some ways the manager didn't help. He was too honest, and he said, look, he's back in full training. He's up for selection. He's just not being picked. Maybe he was too honest. For me, particularly with hamstring issues, like long-term hamstring issues, he had a hamstring issue at Portsmouth. He had it when he came to us. It's a long-term thing. You've got to manage it. And he's got to manage it like he's managed Isaac Davis perfectly this season. He's kept him on the bench, giving him cup games, giving him the odd start, giving him an hour, giving him 20 minutes. And Isaac has used that time to go, no, I'm hungry. I want it. I'm here. I'm there. And then he earns his start. No problem with that at all. We know that Isaac's got an injury history, so you've got to manage that. But you've also got to keep him involved. You've got to keep him wanting it and hungry so that when he comes on, he's sharp and he contributes. And ultimately, where Isaac is now in terms of his levels, that's where we want Robertson and Kellyman to be in a month's time, say, or 6 weeks' time. It's going to take time. But you imagine how strong this squad seems, how much competition there is for places, how well we're playing, and you can still really got Kellyman and Robertson to come into it. Because I know Kellyman's nowhere near up to speed. He's getting fit, and the rest of it. It takes time. It's exciting. So enjoy the excitement. I thought the performance was excellent yesterday. I thought Ryan Wintle was back to his best yesterday after maybe a couple of not shaky games, but just games where he hadn't matched his own level. Again, much like Kean Ashford, Ryan Wintle has set certain levels with his own performances this season. So what happens is when you don't hit those same levels that you've hit, people notice. Now, one of my concerns with Ryan Wintle is a bit like Bagan, without Eli King, there's a bit of it's like, how can we give him a rest? Who can we put in there? You could put Mafika in there for a cup game. Can you trust him in the league? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. I think this manager probably would. But Ryan Wintle's doing a great job. He's knitting it all together nicely. He's protecting the centre-backs. And against Bradford, he was isolated, and then the centre-backs didn't have the protection, and Bradford's pressing was a big part of that. I think we missed the legs of Joel Colwell in that game, if I'm honest. But I thought also in the Bradford game, our pressing wasn't where it has been. We were like half a yard off. It wasn't quite as cohesive and the rest of it. So there's always context and reasons for different things. I'm excited for it. I think this manager, when I look at the squad, I think even if we go through a sticky spell, I think this manager has enough options that he can freshen it up and he can give it something special, like give it a bit of rotation, bring in some fresh legs, and he can keep it going when players get tired, when they need a rest, when their form is not as good. You know, Chris Willock a few games ago was on fire. Now or should I say the last couple of games, he hasn't quite looked as sharp. So you can bring Isaac in. Looked good, looked real good. Chris Willock came on yesterday, looking sharp again. Because, not saying he did get comfortable, but no player should be comfortable in that team because there's a player itching to play in your place. And it's real good. I thought the manager got his tactics spot on yesterday. You know, Paul Mullen can do damage to you if you let him get into the pocket and let him link up with the other striker and let him get into shooting positions. So what do? Every time we get the ball at the back, we play a nice little triangle around him and he's just running around chasing the ball. Take his legs away from him, what legs he's got left. And look, you know, as I mentioned a bit earlier, we've talked a lot over the last year or two at different times about a player could look terrible somewhere and then they go to another club or a manager or a coach or whatever. You can look like one person, one place, you go somewhere else, and suddenly, Ebo Adams is a great example of this. Didn't quite seem settled at Cardiff, wasn't getting the opportunities to play for whatever reason, just didn't quite think. He had an injury. He goes to Derby. His family are settled. He loves where he lives. He gets on with everyone, and suddenly he's playing the best football of his career. It is not always just about what is happening on the pitch. There's so many different things that go into a player's performance and a player's form, what they're doing away from the game. Is their wife happy? Is their kids happy? Blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so much. And it's got to be the right place at the right time. At the moment, Barry Murphy just feels like he's at Cardiff City at the right time. Load of young talent coming through. They just needed the right manager to give him the opportunity. And none of them, not one of them, has let him down. Think about that. Think about how many young players have played for Cardiff City's first team in all competitions since the start of this season, and not one of them has let him down. That tells me that his judgment on when to bring them in, when to go slightly more experienced, has been pretty spot on. Now, of course, it's football, right? So we've all got opinions. You can question certain things, and you can say, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that," or "I'm surprised he's done that," or blah blah blah. Like, that's opinions. It's part of football. But it's a results business ultimately for any manager. But a manager at a high pressure job, like the Cardiff City job, it's all about pressure. It's all about winning. Cardiff City for this season, I believe that the board and the owner, that they're only interested in promotion. So it's all very well playing the young players, but also you have to be winning football matches. And he's doing a good job of picking the right team at the moment. Now, let's flip it back a little bit. Let's go back to Stockport. Let's go back to Bradford. Did he get it wrong there? It's difficult to say. I think Stockport, and this is, again, it's only my personal opinion, I think maybe he overthought it a little bit. Narrow pitch, physical team, and maybe we could have just gone with what was done as well away from home up to now. But it's difficult because you just don't know. But I thought we were very good at the end of that game when we kind of reverted to what we had done earlier in the season with your Kipakios and your Dylan Lawlers and people playing through, moving the ball quickly, and then we work an opportunity to cross, and we're crossing for Salic, and he scores. Like, Stockport seemed very uncomfortable when we started moving that ball. Now, of course, they're tired. Would it have been like that from the start and stuff like that? It all comes into it. Bradford, again, did he make the wrong selections? I'm not sure. I think there's an argument that you could have brought, or you could have maybe could have started or should have started Joel Colwell, because you knew it was going to be a lot of transitions in that game, because Bradford press high, we press high. Do you need someone with a bit more legs in there for the protection defensively, but also the your own transitions as well? Maybe I could see that, but it's easy to say that with hindsight as well. I understand to a certain degree why he would want Turnbull in there to give him a bit of control and possession and stuff. So it's fascinating. Like, for me, I think it is sustainable, and I think he's not only is he doing a great job, but I think we will get better. I don't think we're the finished article yet. I think what you saw yesterday was a lot more crosses going in. Kean worked a couple where he just beats his man and whipped it in. Isaac did the same. Chris Willock did the same, beat his man, looking to cross it in or looking to pull it back. Joel Bagan doing it as well. Perry NG looking to get forward. So I think there's a definite feeling, I think, within the fan base that sometimes when we get around the box, we'd like to see them put it in the box, or we'd like to see them pull the trigger a bit sooner, the final ball, instead of trying to be too clever. That's the sort of thing which comes with rhythm and training. And I think, look, what he's done in quite a short space of time to completely transform the way we play, the way we move off the ball. One of my biggest complaints last year was how static we were. So static. When we had the ball, everyone stood still in their little places waiting for a pass while you're marked. And it just was very frustrating to watch. apologies. I've still got a really sore throat and really bunged up bad chest and that. So I had to have a drink there. I know some people don't like it, but can't talk non-stop for an hour without having a drink. I don't know if I'll make an hour tonight. I've got to be honest with you. It's been a long-ass day and a long-ass week. But we go. Let's keep talking. Right. Paul's, let's have a look what some of you lot are saying. Paul says, test will come when the pitches are not the best. Not saying every pitch, but some. And whether we can play the way BBM wants to play. Fitness will play a part. So keeping these matches, keeping these machines fit. Yeah, I do think we have a way of being a bit more direct, though. Like we've done it at times. When teams do press us high, we'll go direct into Salic, or we'll go direct into Robinson's feet or Ruben's feet, and we'll bypass the build-up in the sort of our first third, and we'll go higher up and then try and build from there. I don't mind that at all. I like, being able to adapt is massive in this season, in this league, and I think also, I think most of the pitches will be okay. Some are going to be small and stuff, but I think generally they shouldn't be too bad. I'm sure we'll come up a couple, come up against a few dodgy ones, but yeah, you got to be able to adapt. Different teams, different opponents, different match situations. Sometimes you've got to be a bit more direct. Sometimes you've got to be quicker. Sometimes you've got to slow it down. We've been pretty good at it so far, but we'll see. Joe Tapper, Gavin says, "Has Paul Mullen's head stopped spinning yet?" Yeah, he looked like a guy who was ready to come off yesterday, didn't he? Connor Cody in the chat. Yeah. Jamie, great support. Great day with good people. Yeah, mate. You must have been alone it. Long old trip this week. 2 long trips, mate. So fair play to you. Can't fault you. Who else we got in here? Kevin, evening, mates. Joel. So Gavin says his first 3 names on the team sheet would be Trott, Ruben, Bagan. Don't disagree with that, mate, at all. Paul says Bagan, Trott, Lawler. Don't disagree with that. Matty Angel says Trott, Bagan, Ruben. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Bagan is mad, isn't it? Like, there's a few people who would have been quite okay selling him in the summer. And look at him now, like, woof, what a player. Good going forward as well, is what I like. Lee Chan, evening, mate. Matthew says, evening all, fantastic performance yesterday. Eating my words about Chambers too. He's been outstanding both Tuesday and yesterday against Wigan. I thought, yeah, 100%, mate. And I'm loving that because ultimately, right, I can't speak for other people, but what we try to do on this channel is we'll always try and be fair and we'll always try and talk about the game. At the end of the day, we're all fans. We're all Cardiff fans. So particularly like on a post-match show and stuff like that, it's always going to be emotional and it's always going to be passion. We try not to dig people out, but if they have been poor, we'll say they've been poor and we'll talk about their football. I can't speak for people on social media and stuff like that. They're going to say what they're going to say, and people elsewhere will say what they're going to say. But like for me, we always try to be fair to the players, and if they've been poor, we'll say it. I said probably a couple of games ago, I think Keane could do with a rest and maybe come off the bench for a couple of games to see if that helps him. But in all fairness, the manager stuck with him, and I said this in the video which I did on Keane earlier in the week, is this manager picks on not just form and ability and the rest of it, but he also picks on attitude in training. And the fact that he picks Keane Ashford week in, week out, in the cup, in the league, etc., that tells you what his attitude and his mentality is like. He is a monster. Like, he is just keep going and going and going. He lives and breathes Cardiff City. If anyone's got blue blood, like he is one of them. And fair play, mate, to Keane Ashford, like to put in those 2 performances when you could see that his confidence was knocked by some of the criticism and the moaning and groaning. I think it takes balls, mate. I do to go and do that without having a break either. Didn't get taken out of the team and then come back and do it. He just did it. And I hope people remember that the next time they want to jump on his back, because it's impressive, mate. And like Matthew makes a great point now. He says last season we had to rush players back after injuries and niggles, and Brian Barry Murphy is able to manage them. I would be shocked if Alex Robertson is fit enough to play an hour of first team football. I honestly would be shocked because he's barely played since pre-season. Now, I know they've had a couple of behind closed doors games and stuff like that, but look, when he's ready, he'll play. And maybe the plan is for him to come in and be the six to give Wintle a break. So they're making sure he's up to speed so he can do a good job there. I think he's got a lot to offer, Alex Robertson, but he's got to be fit, hasn't he, to do it. I think Kellyman's slightly different. He's a lone player, so you're expected to play them to a certain degree. And I think we're trying to play him into fitness. I don't have an issue with that. It's not like we're starting him and he's struggling. We're just getting him in bits and pieces, get him going, like, you know. Matthew says, Big Balls Murphy made a massive call with Osho yesterday and Chambers together, and both were outstanding. Osho's pace is as well. It helps clean things up at times. Yeah, his over the first 5 yards, Osho's pace is a big difference maker. Whether it's nipping in front of the striker to get the ball and intercept it, or whether it's recovery pace to get if the ball does get in behind, it's massive. And I can't remember who brought it up. It might have been John who brought it up in the chat like a couple of weeks ago, but it said like Osho's played as a 6 before. And I did speculate maybe he could be the backup plan if Wintle needs a break, and maybe his pace becomes an asset in there as well. But I like him. I think if I'm honest, when it's the right time and the right game, I would like to see Mafiko get a go. He's impressed me when he's played in that number 6 role in the cup, but admittedly, it is a different ball game in the league. So you've got to make sure it's the right time and the right game. Joel says, so much forced hate towards Chambers and NG made a lot of people eat their words over these last 2 games. I think it's difficult, right? Because I think you've got to separate hate and criticism of performance. And in my opinion, the Perry NG that we've seen for the last 18 months is not a Perry NG that I fell in love with when he came to Cardiff City and was one of the best right backs in the Championship. And again, like Keane Ashford, that's because Perry NG set such a high level with his performances for Cardiff, Championship teams of the year, just week after week after week of just good performances. When you see that drop off in performance, it gets frustrating. Now, I don't think it's a secret that he had like a long-term sort of hip back thing. You got to give him time in that. And I think the good thing is now, if he does struggle with any niggles injuries, you've got Capaccio in there, and really Capaccio could be in there in his own right anyway. So that's a big competition between them two for the right back. But I agree, like it does feel sometimes like people have got to have like a scapegoat, haven't they? You know, last year it was Siopis and Ruben and different people, like, and then this year it felt like NG Chambers, like. Do you know what I mean? And it was Kian. Like, people have got to blame someone when things don't quite go to plan. But things don't always go to plan all the time. Like, sometimes you have an off day. They're not robots. G-Ballers and Averin says, I went yesterday and it was a very good away performance. I'd like a little more end product, being picky, but I do think we'll click and someone is going to take a pumping off us. That I 100% agree with. And I think what we did see yesterday, like I just said, is I do think we saw more crosses and more attempts to get a ball in the box when we worked those positions. But I agree with you as well. If we've been a little bit more clinical, we could have been 2-3 up in the first half hour. We were so good in that first half hour, and Wigan did not have an answer. And then they kind of slowly got into it towards the end of the first half. But in the second half, Wigan just set up to not concede. And they made it very difficult, which is why the second half sort of pitted out a little bit. But that first half, a little bit more quality, a little bit more clinical. And yeah, we would have been 2 or 3 up. But I agree with you, mate. Someone is going to take an absolute pasting off us at some point. Reese Lasky, evening, mate. Hope you're good. Matthew says Eli's just dropped the second episode of his podcast. Just a quick convo. Yeah, keep an eye on that for sure. He's recovering well from his surgery as well. So best of luck to Eli. Alex says, I really think we're going to go straight back up. 1 or 2 additions in January will kick us on even more. But here's the problem, right? I don't disagree with you, by the way, at all. But if everyone's fit now, you've got to leave some big players out. If you look at the squad, everyone's fit. You can only pick 16. You got to leave some big names out. You add another couple, more big names. And I think the general sort of 16, 18, 19 that he's used in the league have all contributed. They've all they've all deserved their places, and it's going to be interesting. A couple of home games now as well, which will really help us. And if you're about over the Tuesday in the day, the 21s are playing as well. Looking forward to that. I might go down to that actually, because I've got to go down there in the morning. So yeah, I might go down there Tuesday and have a little look at the 21s actually. But yeah, and then obviously Tuesday night we've got Burton. I lost where I was in the comments now, so I apologise. I'm going to have to try and find where I was. Can't remember what the last one was. Yeah, someone's going to get a pump in. Yes, they are. Paul says, when we lost to Bradford, BBM and the team showed a reaction. Not only that BBM paying homage to the amount of travelling fans, yeah, the appreciation of the fans has been, I like that this season, because it didn't always feel like that at points last year. There was an appreciation of what the fans do, and especially this year, there ain't no close ones. They're all flipping 3-4 hours away. G Ballers and Averin says, I'm going to call you G Ballers, mate, just to shorten it. Osho, Chambers, NG, Joel, Ashford, Isaac, all great yesterday. There wasn't many. I don't think anyone was bad, mate, to be honest with you. Ryan says, a bit like when Rambo was with us, maybe getting on and lack of pace, but with Chambers, can't teach reading of the game. And now he's fit. The last 2 games shows he's got a big part to play for us. Yeah, he's definitely, mate. He's, and he's going to be super important for us because we haven't got many experienced players. We haven't got many players who've been there and done it. A lot of our squad and our group are just young. A lot of them are in their first season. You got to remember that. So you need your Robinsons, your Chambers, your NGs. They're the guys who are leading this group in terms of, relax. We've been there. We've done it. After that loss last week, it's how you react to it and how the young players react to it. So they're going to be important whether they're playing or not. Matthew says, echoing your comments about Kian Tsai, thought he was back to his best yesterday and Tuesday. As soon as he puts a bit more muscle on, he'll go up even another level. Yeah, he's technically excellent, mate. And I think people forget, and that's what I tried to get across in the video I did. People forget, he's not a winger by, naturally. He hasn't played, some players, they've been in the same position since they were 7 years old, and they just played and just adapted as they've gone through the age groups. He's played a different position and then come into the first team and has been playing somewhere else. And it's the angles and everything is different. And I don't think as well, sometimes people appreciate the difference in angles, receiving the ball, dribbling, passing, playing right to left are different. And depending on what type of player you are, depends on how easily or how difficult you find that. A more direct winger, like an Isaac, for instance, who just wants to get it and go at his fullback, I think they find it easier to switch left to right in game and naturally, where maybe a Willock or a Kean, who's a bit more technical, then I think they find it a little bit more difficult switching sides. Not that they can't, and I think I like Kean on the right, but I know his preferred position is off the left. I really like him off the right. I think his decision making is really good, especially when you've got Joel and Capaccio there running beyond him. It's a nice balance. But I thought Isaac Davis, has been really good on the right. Our crossing needs some work, says Paul. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, mate. 73 possession away from home is just mad, isn't it? Lee says, well said, Si. We were all thinking we were short in squad numbers, but he's got the players playing with a few additions. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how we develop with the squad and that. Jonathan says, I thought Wigan were weak for a Ryan Lowe side. His sides usually have more fight. We never had an easy game against this Preston side. Yeah, sometimes you can only play with what you got, mate, as well. And I don't know. I looked at that Wigan side, and outside Sadie up front, I wasn't like worried about any of it. How that Matt Smith stayed on the pitch, by the way. Jesus Christ. The man made about 4 or 5 like yellow cards, tackles, and still managed to only get away with a booking. Insanity, wasn't it? Like, well, maybe I'm just wrong. I saw it wrong, like, but just thought it was mad how he stayed on the pitch. Like, he had at least 2 yellow cards. He should have anyway. Matthew says, Matt says, I agree with some others, though. It just hasn't clicked fully yet, which is quite scary because as soon as it clicks fully, we'll become clinical and then someone is going to get absolute battering. Well, I hope it's not just one team, mate. I would really like it if we can go like we've been going up to Christmas and then mid-December through to mid-January, we absolutely kick into gear and start whooping teams like 3-0 every week just for like a few weeks. Because if you do that over Christmas, mate, you can run away with the league because the games are so close together and you play so many games over that sort of mid-December to mid-January that if you have a really good purple patch over that sort of period, you can run away with it. And do you know what, right? I say this. When was the last time we had a really good, enjoyable Christmas as like for a footballing point of view as Cardiff fans? Feels like it's been ages. We were absolutely dire from the 1st of December down to the end of January almost. I think it wasn't quite that long. It was like after the Oxford game, we had a little improvement, didn't we? We were dreadful in December and it felt like it was never ending. So it'd be nice to have a like purple patch over Christmas. Ryan says, when you judge players on how they train to be picked on a Saturday, the training must be so intense because you picked on merit and not on name. Yeah, and I think, you know what I think people forget as well, or maybe like all of us as football fans forget, right? Can you imagine how difficult as a manager and coaches it is, not just at Cardiff, but any club, where you want an environment where that squad of, say, 20, right? You want them to be like brothers in arms, together, ready to go to war with each other, like together every week. But on the other side of that, you want them competing so hard with each other to be the ones that start, like that they're going against each other all week to get in the 11. It's a very fine line. And I think the best managers are able to really bring out that togetherness, but bring out the competitive nature in the players in the right way. And Ryan Lowe's a big fan of us, isn't he? I haven't seen his post-match quotes, but he likes Cardiff, and I think he likes what we're doing. I just don't think he's got the squad to do what he wants to do. Maybe he'll get some back in and stuff. I thought they were really poor. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who was poorer. Rotherham were dreadful. Like, I know we gave them a whooping Plymouth, but I thought Plymouth were decent. We just were clinical that day. And we had a few deflections and stuff, but Rotherham were poor. I thought Wigan were as bad as we played, I've got to be honest. Although Peterborough were shockingly bad. We just were nowhere near the sort of clicking into gear, so he was a bit closer than what he should have been. Matt says, did anyone notice Lowe's comments yesterday after the match? Basically blamed the players, said we gave the players a game plan and they didn't execute it. Mate, I know that like people say, you know, like when your man at Stockport, I can't remember his name. Dave. The coach there slaughtered the players the week before we played them, and then they had a massive reaction versus us. It is difficult, right? Because if you slaughter the players publicly, it's only going one or two ways. But can you imagine how frustrating it is as a coach? Well, I don't need to imagine how frustrating it is as a coach, but because I watch my boys, me and my mate coach my son's team. Like, and last week we were sensational. When I say sensational, like every single way, every single metric, we were sensational. 1-5-0, first game of the season, beautiful. And then today, it was like a different team. So you imagine, like, and they didn't really do anything wrong. It was just an off day. You imagine what it's like for a professional coach who's there day in, day out, leaving hours after the players have gone home and stuff. They come up with a plan. They have all these meetings like, oh, we're playing Cardiff this week. They like to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then you go on the pitch on a Saturday and the players just abandon it and don't do any of the stuff you've worked on or talked about. It's got to be frustrating. Like, and what do you do? Do you keep it in-house or do you do it publicly? I can't imagine he was impressed with that performance. Their fans were not happy. Their fans, like, were you surprised how empty their stadium was? 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday. Terrible amount of fans there, I thought. Really sorry about the coughing. My chest, it just hit, it comes up all of a sudden and just, I can't mute it and stuff. I'm very sorry. Reese says, probably wanted this team to press us, but when we move the ball, we're hard and you're chasing shadows, you end up dropping naturally deeper. Been on the other end of those types of games many times. Yeah, and I think second half, you could see they just sat in, didn't they, and just tried to make themselves hard to beat. As I've said a few times, if we get one up, we're one of the worst teams I could think about playing because you've got to take a risk. We're very good at pinching the ball on the transition in your own third, in your final third or our final third, and it becomes a nightmare because we're also happy to have 70% possession and control the game. So 1-0 up, I think we're a difficult side to play against. Geraint says, pint of gin. No, it's water, mate. Come on. I don't drink, for one. And two, I most definitely purchased this Guinness glass. Definitely. I got a 20-year-old son who's in university. My glass cupboard is full of random pint glasses. 3 league games in a week now. Burton at bottom. Time for rotation. Now that is interesting. Says Roger said that. There's 2 ways to look at it, I guess, isn't there? So next Tuesday, isn't a week Tuesday we play Newport. Oh no, it's week Tuesday we play Newport, don't we? So they're going to rotate then. So do you go all out for these games now? So what, Burton? I think you've got to go for it, like especially at home. But then what's rotation? I mean, if you rotate and you're looking at bringing in Dylan Lawler and Will Fish, in my opinion, they've been our best centre-back pairing. No disrespect to the other. That's just that when they've played, they've looked good. Joel Colwell, I think, makes a big difference. You bring in David Turner, you've got a bit more control on the ball. Who else could you bring in? You could bring Basalic back in, just scored a goal off the bench, and you could bring Willock in. Like, it doesn't really weaken us, does it? Like, really? And, Willock started quite a few games. So, yeah, I think he'll probably rotate it a little bit. I just, I always worry with the rotations. And even yesterday, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, like when we saw the team sheet. I always worried, like, last year, we tinkered a lot with our centre-back pairings and we tinkered a lot with the team. Like, game to game, you just didn't know what team we were picking. And I worry about that because I worry about partnerships and pairings and the rest of it and chemistry. But by and large, the core of the side has stayed the same, hasn't it, in the league? Bagan, Trott, Ruben. Like, there has been a core of players who play most games. Could you give, against Burton, could you give Ruben a rest and bring Kellyman in for an hour or half? Maybe. Should you risk it? For me, the league is your bread and butter. And if you want to get promoted this year, I think you've got to treat every game as a must win in the league. And then in the cup, rotate, against Newport, rotate, maybe even a couple of youngsters in there as well. some of the players who are on the bench who haven't had as many minutes, get them in there. That's what I would do. But I'm interested in what you guys would do. Would you rotate against Britain? Or would you go? I just think league's got to be the priority. Even though I want to see us go and win the Virtue Trophy, by the way, that's the one I'd be targeting. That's just me, though. I want a trip to Wembley, another one. And like, yeah, that was something that I noticed from Perry NG's interview. Training is hard but fun. Manager's doing a lot of the right things at the moment. It's a good old game. Jonathan says that Smith slide tackle through back of Joel was stinking. Yeah, I thought that was not far off a red on its own. It was a naughty one. He left him. What I didn't like about it is it wasn't like he just missed timing tackles and he's going for the ball. You could see like he was leaving it on Cardiff players a lot. And I think teams will do that to us this year anyway. One, because they're fed up of chasing the ball. And two, because they want to intimidate the young players. And I think with Joel, that was the case because he left a couple on Joel after the ball had gone. And the ref didn't put a stop to it. And I just think, yeah, it was not good. Andy says Smith should have gone, but overall the ref was good, although it was a low bar. Yeah, he was easily the best ref, wasn't he? I know the ref against Burnley was okay, but the ref yesterday was easily the best ref we've had, which is a low bar, mind, isn't it? G Ballers says, spoke to a few Wigan fans yesterday. They were very complimentary of us. Said that's the best they've seen it from any side this year. A lot of teams have said that, mate, haven't they? Like they've been quite impressed with us. A Wrexham fan commented on a video earlier, and he said, like, you know, he's a Wrexham fan, but he wants all the Welsh teams to do well. And he said that he's been very impressed with what we're doing. I think when you see other teams' managers and players speaking about how good we've been after they've played us, I think that's a real clear indication that we are a good side. And good sides can lose. I think if we play the Bradford game 10 times, we win more than we lose. I think last week was just a bit of an off game. They were very good. We were not. Happens, doesn't it? It's professional sport at the end of the day. Paul says, Si, where do you see the January transfer window? Any positions you think we should bring someone in? So, as the squad is, not really. And I know some people will say left back. Without knowing what BBM thinks of Louis Giles, I can't really make a decision on that. If he sees Louis as a genuine backup to Joel Bagan, so if Joel Bagan gets injured tomorrow, God, touch wood, hope he doesn't, but if he got a little knock tomorrow and he can't play for 2 games, is he able to just put Louis Giles in for a couple of games, or is he going to have to go like, oh, Perry NG's going left back? If he's putting Perry NG left back to cover it, or whoever, like a Joel Colwell or someone, and he's not just putting in Louis Giles as a straight swap, then I think we need a left back. If he's putting Louis Giles straight in there as the backup, fine. That's what we go with. I trust the manager. And then it would all depend on outgoings, mate. I think as the squad is today, the only positions I'd potentially look at would be a left back and a 6, because Eli's out for the season, or as close to the season as possible. Like, so I do well. Like, I worry, like, Joel can't play every game, every minute of every game. He has to have someone who can take the pressure, the workload off him. Same with Wintle, and Wintle's older as well than Joel Bagan is. Like, you have to have someone who can go in there and take the pressure off him. Now, are we looking at Mafiko? If Wintle's injured on Saturday or against Burton, would he put Mafiko straight in there? I'm not sure he would. Would he put Turnbull in there? Probably, maybe, and Turnbull and Joel. Alex Robertson may be the plan for that in the longer term of the season. Or he doesn't seem to think Chambers is a CDM. He's never played him there. And I have no reason to think that he would think that Osho is either. So maybe a 6 and a left back. And then it would literally depend on the outgoings. I'd still like someone like Isaac that could play like the other, like another direct winger is probably the one I would like, but that's being greedy, like, because I think we've got a good mix. And also, I'm basing that on we haven't seen the best of Kellyman yet whatsoever because he's not fit. So when we see the best of him, that might also change. But it's an interesting question, isn't it? Like, it's difficult without outgoings. It's also difficult, like, if we are like top of the league and we've running away with it in January, then you don't need to bring loads in. Just some Dave Charles now, that's the one. Like, you can just strengthen, can you? If we've fallen away a little bit and we're like 6th or 7th and you need to kick on, then maybe you need to drop a bit of extra quality in there or a bit of extra experience or whatever you need at the time. So, yeah, it'd be interesting. Right, I'm going to wrap up in a minute, so I'm going to try and get through some comments. Jonathan says, I think we should rotate in the cups and go for the throat in the league, personally. Yeah, that's how I feel, mate. The Virtue Trophy is the one out of all the cups. Like, obviously, we don't need to worry about the FA Cup at the moment, but at the moment, I'm not really bothered about a Carabao Cup. But then you could say, well, we're into the last 16 or whatever it is. Like the Virtue Cup, with it only being League One and down, I just think you'd be silly not to try and win it. Like, really. At the end of the day, winning, it just like the more you win, it just breeds more and more confidence in it. It becomes a habit. We saw that we saw that pre-international break. It just felt like a machine. International break comes, and we had a bit of a knock to our momentum, and then we found it again straight away. That's the most pleasing thing for me. Yeah, mate, you're preaching to the absolute choir, mate, on Brian Barry Murphy. Matthew said, nice to see Perry NG say in the post-match comments, can't describe how good he is, talking about BBM. Yeah. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, mate, but I've been saying it for months. I said it for months before we brought him in. Yeah, that was interesting. You're right there, Jonathan. He says the most interesting part of Perry's quote was, "This is the happiest I've been in a few years." And he says, we all know he's had one eye on the door until now. Yeah, the problem is, mate, as fans, we all like to make judgments about players' performance and stuff, but we rarely know. And even, people who do know bits and pieces, you never know exactly what's going on. You never know exactly what's going on behind closed doors. The question, the disagreements, you just don't know what's going on day to day. Last season was brutal on the pitch. Imagine what it was like in the dressing room day to day. Like, it must have been not a great place to be. And you got Tanner to come back in January as well, which is, so maybe you don't need that winger. You got Kellyman, Tanner, and Robertson to add to what is already doing well. It's quite mad, isn't it? Really. I like the standards that Brian Barry Murphy has set. And I think that if he is able to keep those standards and keep the players working in the same direction and the togetherness for the whole season, I do think we will be right up there come the end of the season, because I haven't seen a team yet that I'm like, oof, they're good, like they're really good. I've seen teams where I think, oh, they might trouble us, but it's usually teams that are physical. Stockport away was the game at the start of the season, which I was like, that is going to be the hardest game away from home this season. And it was hard. I think, and I say this again, I said it earlier, and I know this sounds like sour grapes. It's really not. I thought Bradford were excellent. They were really good value, and they deserved to win last week. I think if this team under this manager plays that game 10 times, we win it, most of them. It was an off day. And I would like to think when we go to their place later in the season, we'll put it right, because I think it was an off day. Same with Stockport, by the way. I think Stockport at our place will be a whole different kettle of fish. Big pitch. They'll try and be physical, but when teams have tried to be physical with us at home, we've just moved the ball around them and done quite well. So, be interesting. I see a lot of teams in League One who crumble under a press. Like, you see a lot of managers, they all want to play out from the back, but when you've got a good, cohesive, organised press with fast players, teams crumble under and they give the ball away a lot. And I look at the way we press and I think, this could be fun. So I look forward to it. We'll have a Bradford Burton preview out this week as well. So please check that out. Going back to the full tactical previews, hopefully, if I got a bit of time. It's mainly the edit, to be honest. It takes time with all the graphics and that. But I do enjoy having a proper deep dive into the tactics of the opposition and where we can trouble them and stuff. But what I need is I need someone who will do some editing for free, basically. But there we go. It is what it is. Thank you so much, guys. It's great to be back. I've had a week off, which is unheard of. And, Sunday, the breakdown is always good. Wigan 0, Cardiff City 2. Another 3 points for Brian Barry Murphy's men. And we had to win yesterday because all the teams above us, they all won. So it's important that we kept going. It's exciting times, but just remember, when people have an off day or when we do have a sticky spell, stick with the team, stick with the manager, and stick with these young players because we have seen how good they can be. And we've all just discussed in this last hour how this is nowhere near the best. Stevenage is the game I'm looking forward to, mate. You're right there, Matthew. They have been excellent all season. But yeah. John, I was, mate. I was at breaking point just before the event. I was at a lot going on. A lot of those things have been sort of sorted now and just waiting for contracts and all that sort of stuff. But there was a lot going on apart from the event and everything going into that. If you haven't got your Sean Morrison tickets, please do get them. There's only a couple left, I think. But it'd be great to see you. Come and say hello. I found out on Saturday, like a couple of people who were long-term watchers of the channel who I speak to fairly regularly were at the live event and didn't come and say hello because I looked too busy. Please come and say hello, especially at the live events. Like, always come and say hello. Because I really appreciate you being there. I really appreciate you supporting the channel and the event and everything else. Like, no matter how busy I look, I'll always be nice to say hello to people who watch the channel and stuff. Same at games. If you see me at a game, just say hello. See a few people like looking over and that, but I just come and say hello and I'm nice. I like chatting to people. And I said I was going to do a short 20 minutes tonight because I didn't feel well. And here we are, an hour and 5 minutes in. If I don't like talking, what do I like? Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you so much to the people who watch afterwards. Thank you so much to the people who download the audio. TalkSport Fan Network, of course. And as always, please support all the sponsors and stuff. Got a couple of new sponsors coming soon as well, which is massive for me and for us because sponsors and members, that's what allows us to do 7 days a week of Cardiff City content. Just do it all the time, day in, day out. Got a really, really interesting look at Dylan Lawler's impact on how we build up and how we play coming. So please check that out. Got a video on Ninian Park coming. We've got the Burton preview. And, of course, we've got all the live shows throughout the week, including tomorrow night's members show. Thank you so much. Keep the faith. And I'll see you in a bit. Nice one.
Rascal Beats.
For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar.